You sent the text, you saw delivered. Hours go by, nothing. Maybe she opens it, maybe she doesn't. But that silence, it starts eating at you. You check your phone, you reread what you wrote, you wonder if you said something wrong, and there's this voice in your head asking the same question over and over. Is she done with me? Did I lose her? I know exactly what that feels like, and I need to tell you something that's going to change how you see this entire situation. That anxiety you're feeling right now, it's about to make you do the one thing that guarantees you'll never hear from her again. Because here's what most men don't understand. When a woman goes quiet on you, she hasn't made her final decision yet. She's in the middle of a process, she's evaluating, and what you do in the next 48 hours determines everything. The problem is, your instincts are screaming at you to chase, to fix it, to reach out again. But every single one of those moves confirms exactly what she's afraid might be true about you. There's one response that flips this entire dynamic, one thing that changes how she sees you, and it's probably the opposite of what you're about to do. Stay with me, because by the end of this, you'll know exactly what's happening in her mind and what to do about it. So let's talk about what's actually happening when you feel that urge to reach out again. Your instincts are telling you to fix this, to send another message, to call her, to show up and prove you care. And on the surface, that makes sense. If someone you want is slipping away, you should fight for them, right? Here's the problem. That instinct is wired for survival, not attraction. Your brain is treating her silence like a threat. And when we feel threatened, we grasp, we pursue, we try harder. But attraction doesn't work like survival. The more you chase, the more she pulls away. And it's not because she's playing games or testing your patience just to be cruel. It's because of something happening on a much deeper level. When you double text, when you ask what's wrong, when you try to have a conversation about where things stand, you're communicating something you don't intend to. You're telling her that her attention is more valuable than yours. You're showing her that you need her validation to feel okay. And that single message sends a signal that can undo weeks of attraction you've built. Think about it from her side for a moment. She pulled back. Maybe she's busy, maybe she's uncertain, maybe she's testing you without even realizing it. But whatever the reason, she created space. And the moment you rush to fill that space, you confirm something she might have only suspected. That you're more invested than she is. That you'll always be the one reaching. That the dynamic has already shifted in a direction she didn't want. Most men think showing effort shows value. But in the early stages, before commitment is established, effort without invitation often signals desperation. It tells her you don't have options. It tells her she already has you. And when a woman feels like she already has you, the challenge disappears, the mystery fades, and so does her interest. This isn't about playing hard to get. This isn't about manipulation or mind games. This is about understanding a fundamental truth about human psychology. We don't value what chases us. We value what we have to earn. And right now, every instinct you have is pushing you toward the exact behavior that makes you seem like you don't need to be earned. But here's what most men never stop to consider. What if her pulling away isn't the problem? What if it's actually giving you information? What if the real question isn't how do I get her back, but what is she really looking for when she goes quiet? When a woman goes quiet on you, something specific is happening in her mind. And understanding this is the difference between reacting in a way that pushes her away and responding in a way that pulls her closer. Here's what most men don't realize. Women test, not because they're manipulative, not because they enjoy watching you struggle, but because they need information that words alone can't provide. See, a woman can't just ask you if you're emotionally stable. She can't directly test whether you'll stay grounded when things get uncomfortable. She can't put you in a laboratory and measure how you handle pressure. So instead, she creates situations, sometimes consciously, sometimes without even knowing she's doing it. And silence is one of the most common tests there is. When she pulls back, she's watching. She's measuring how you respond to uncertainty. She's looking for one thing above everything else. Emotional security. Not in the sense of neediness. Not in the sense of you reassuring her constantly. But in the sense of whether you can hold your ground when things don't go your way. Whether you stay the same person when she's not giving you attention. Whether your sense of self depends on her validation or exists independently of it. This is the calculation happening beneath the surface. Can I feel safe with this man? Will he stay steady if life gets hard? Or will he crumble the moment I'm not actively reassuring him? Now there's a crucial distinction you need to understand, because not every silence is a test. Sometimes she's genuinely losing interest. Sometimes her feelings have shifted, and the worst thing you can do is assume everything is a test when in reality she's already checked out. So how do you tell the difference? A test usually comes after a period of connection. Things were going well, she was engaged, and then suddenly she pulled back. There's inconsistency between her words and actions. She might seem distant but still opens your messages, still responds eventually, even if briefly. Genuine disinterest looks different. It's a steady decline over time. Her responses don't just get shorter, they become obligations. She stops initiating entirely. There's no push and pull, just pull away. Here's the thing though, whether she's testing you or genuinely losing interest, the correct response is exactly the same. Because the response isn't about manipulating her back, it's about showing her, through your behavior, what kind of man you actually are. And that brings us to the part you've been waiting for, the one move that changes everything, the counterintuitive response that works whether she's testing you or whether she's pulling away for real. Because either way, this is what separates the men she forgets from the men she can't stop thinking about. Here it is. The one thing. When she pulls away, you pull away too. That's it. That's the move. You match her energy. You mirror her distance. You stop reaching and you let the space exist. I know that sounds simple, almost too simple, but stay with me, because the psychology behind this is what makes it so powerful. When you pull back instead of chasing, you do something most men never do. You break the pattern she's expecting. She pulled away thinking she'd see one of two things. Either you'd chase, which confirms you're more invested than she is, or you'd get angry and reactive, which confirms you're emotionally unstable. But when you do neither, when you simply let her have the space she created, something shifts in her mind. Suddenly, she's not certain anymore. She doesn't know where she stands with you. And that uncertainty, that not knowing, is what reactivates her interest. See, when she pulled away, she took control of the dynamic. She created distance and waited to see how you'd respond. But when you match that distance instead of fighting it, you take the control back. You're no longer the one reacting. You're the one who's also choosing. And here's the part most men miss entirely. Your silence communicates something your words never could. It says you have a life outside of her. It says your emotional state doesn't depend on her attention. It says you respect yourself enough to not chase someone who's showing you they're uncertain. And all of that makes you more attractive than any text you could send. But there's something deeper happening too. Something that goes beyond strategy and into the core of how attraction actually works. Think about the things you value most in your life, the accomplishments you're proud of, the people you respect. None of them were handed to you. You had to work for them. You had to earn them. And that effort is part of what makes them meaningful. Attraction works the same way. When you stop reaching out, you give her space to feel your absence. Right now, she doesn't miss you because you're always there. Your presence is constant. Your attention is guaranteed. There's no space for longing to develop. But when you step back, when you're suddenly not texting, not calling, not showing up in her notifications, that's when she starts to notice the gap. That's when she starts wondering what you're doing. That's when the tables begin to turn. This isn't about manipulation. This isn't about punishing her or playing games. This is about creating the conditions where she can actually feel something for you again. Because here's the truth. You cannot convince someone to want you. You cannot argue your way into attraction. You cannot explain why she should care. The only thing you can do is show her through your actions that you're someone worth caring about. And the man who doesn't chase when she pulls away, that's the man who stands out. That's the man she can't quite figure out. That's the man she starts thinking about when she's lying in bed at night, wondering why you haven't reached out. Now, before you go silent on her tonight, there's something critical you need to understand. Because most men hear this advice and they do it wrong. They turn strategic withdrawal into something bitter, something passive-aggressive, something that defeats the entire purpose. So let me show you exactly how to do this right, and the mindset that makes it work. Here's where most men go wrong with this. They hear pull back and they think punish, they think revenge, they think I'll show her, and the moment that energy enters the equation, it ruins everything. Because here's what you need to understand. Strategic withdrawal only works when it comes from a place of self-respect, not resentment. The second you're doing this to hurt her, to make her feel bad, to get back at her for ignoring you, she'll feel it. Maybe not consciously, but she'll sense something is off, and instead of missing you, she'll feel relieved she stepped back. So let me be clear about the mindset that makes this work. You're not ignoring her to play games. You're giving her the space she asked for. You're not punishing her for pulling away. You're respecting your own time and energy enough to not waste it on someone who isn't sure about you. You're not trying to manipulate her into coming back. You're simply choosing not to chase someone who's walking away. That shift in framing changes everything, because now you're not playing a game. You're living by a principle, and that principle is this: your attention goes where it's valued. Now, practically speaking, what does this look like? First, you stop initiating. If she hasn't responded to your last message, you don't send another one. If she's been distant, you don't reach out asking what's wrong. You let the conversation end where she left it. Second, you fill your time with something real. This isn't about pretending to be busy, it's about actually having a life worth living. Go to the gym, work on your projects, spend time with friends, do the things you've been putting off. Because here's the truth: if you're just sitting there staring at your phone waiting for her to text, you're not actually pulling back, you're just suffering in silence. Third, if she does reach out, you respond normally. You don't punish her with short answers. You don't act cold or distant to prove a point. You're warm, you're present, but you don't overinvest. You match her energy. If she sends a one-word response, you don't send a paragraph. If she seems engaged, you engage back. Mirror, don't chase. And how long do you do this until something shifts? Either she comes back with more investment and you can re-engage from a position of equality, or she doesn't and you have your answer. Either outcome gives you clarity, either outcome moves you forward. The goal isn't to wait forever. The goal is to create space where the truth can reveal itself, and that leads to the question you're probably asking right now: what's actually happening in her mind during this time? What does she think when you stop chasing? Because understanding this is what gives you confidence that you're doing the right thing. Let me take you inside her experience for a moment, because what happens in her mind when you stop chasing is probably not what you expect. At first, she doesn't notice. She's busy. She's dealing with her own life. Maybe she pulled back because she was overwhelmed or uncertain, or just testing the waters. Either way, your silence doesn't register immediately. But then something shifts. A day goes by, maybe two, and suddenly she realizes you haven't reached out. You haven't double texted. You haven't asked what's wrong. You just disappeared. And this is where her mind starts working. She checks her phone. She wonders if she missed something. She starts replaying your last conversation, looking for clues. Sound familiar? That's the same anxiety you were feeling, but now she's the one experiencing it. This is the power of absence. It flips the script. See, when you were chasing, she had certainty. She knew where you stood. She knew you wanted her. There was no mystery, no tension, nothing to wonder about. But now she doesn't know, and that not knowing is what makes her start to feel something. She might tell herself she doesn't care. She might convince herself she's fine with the silence. But late at night, when she's alone with her thoughts, she's wondering, why hasn't he texted? Is he over me? Did I push him away? And here's the part that matters most. What she does next tells you everything you need to know. If she reaches out, even casually, she's showing you that your absence affected her. She felt the gap. She wanted to close it, and now you can re-engage from a position where the energy is more balanced. But if she doesn't reach out, if the silence continues indefinitely, that's information too. Painful information, but valuable, because it tells you that she wasn't as invested as you thought, and no amount of chasing would have changed that. This is why pulling back isn't just a tactic, it's a filter. It shows you who actually cares and who was just enjoying the attention. Either way, you win. Either she comes back with more interest, or you gain the clarity to move forward without wondering what if. But there's something deeper here that most men miss. Something that changes not just how you handle this situation, but how you handle every relationship going forward. Here's the truth that might be uncomfortable to hear. This was never really about getting her back. I know that's what brought you here. I know you want her to reach out. You want to feel that relief when her name lights up your phone. You want to know that you didn't lose her. But here's what I need you to understand. The moment you make your peace of mind dependent on whether or not she comes back, you've already lost something more important than her. You've lost yourself. The real shift isn't learning what to do when she pulls away. The real shift is becoming the kind of man who doesn't need to chase anyone, who doesn't lose himself when someone goes quiet, who has a life full enough and a sense of self strong enough that one woman's uncertainty doesn't send him spiraling? That's what this is really about. Because here's the controversial part. If you do everything right and she still doesn't come back, good. You just saved yourself months, maybe years of trying to earn the attention of someone who was never going to give it fully. You filtered out someone who wasn't right for you, and if she does come back, she comes back to a man who has proven through his actions that he respects himself, that he won't beg, that he won't crumble, that he is quite simply the kind of man worth fighting for. Either way, you become more attractive, not because of a trick, but because you've internalized something most men never learn. Your value doesn't decrease based on someone's inability to see your worth. That's not a line to memorize, that's a way to live. Now I want to hear from you. Have you been in this situation before? A woman pulled away, and you didn't know whether to chase or let her go? What did you do? And looking back, what do you wish you had done differently? Drop your story in the comments. I read every single one, and sometimes the best insights don't come from me. They come from men who've been through it and found their way to the other side. Because here's what this is really about. It's not just about one woman. It's about building the kind of confidence and self-respect that carries you through every relationship you'll ever have. It's about becoming the man who doesn't need external validation to feel complete. That's the real goal, not getting her back, getting yourself back. So if something in this video resonated with you, share it with someone who needs to hear it. And if you haven't already, subscribe, because this is just the beginning. You're not here to chase anyone. You're here to become someone worth chasing.